I'm going to take you with me while I finish a repair on a customer's boat. We're working out in a mooring today, so I'm going to grab my life jacket and some tools. We're not going to spend too much time in the van because it's a mess. We'll make our way down to the tender. This customer's actually on holiday at the moment, so we're going to make our own way out there using his boat. First thing we'll do is fire up the outboard and let it warm up while we get ourselves ready to go. I'll be honest, it took me a lot longer than I'd care to admit to get this outboard running, so with the magic of editing, we're just going to pretend it starts here and skip to throwing off the ropes. I also continually forget that I'm filming and forget about camera angles, so all we're looking at on the way is the side of the boat here, and we're going to jump to coming alongside. As I'm tying up here, I can hear the alarm of my van going off on the pier, and I remember that I left the window open. But we're here now, so we'll chuck the kit on, get ourselves on there and get cracking with the job. Some days these jobs aren't the most pleasant, but not today. Look at the weather. You're soon going to see that the engine room in this boat is cramped and dark, so I'm just going to jump into the wheelhouse and throw open the forward engine room hatch. That's just going to give me a little bit more light, and then I'm going to jump back down through the deck hatch. Now that we're in here, I'll tell you a bit about the job. So we're on a Beta 60 horsepower here. The complaint was it was quite a serious vibration from the engine. We did some fault finding and found there was absolutely no fuel getting delivered to injector number 2 and traced that fault back to the fuel pump rack. Since we knew that the engine was going to be out of commission for a wee while, we put it onto the mooring because it's safer, and we also pulled the injectors to get them serviced at the same time. This might look like a strange order to do things in since we're working on the pump, but I've started on the injectors. Really, even though they were plugged, I just didn't want to leave holes open in the cylinder head. Everyone has their own way of doing things. When I pull something like this apart, I like to leave everything where I found it. It helps when I come back, like in this case 10 days later, I can still remember where it all goes and nothing's been lost. Once everything's out the way, we can get on with fitting the pump rack itself. And here it is. This slider I'm playing with is really important. I'll explain why later on. It's really important when you're fitting something like this that you bring it down evenly to the mating surface. There's lots of bits inside that pump unit that are quite sensitive, so we need to make sure that we don't damage them. There's going to be a common theme while I'm working on the pump here, and that is checking and rechecking. So now that I've fitted the rack, I'm just making sure that slider's sitting properly and the throttle lever's moving it the way it should. So that was the shuttle spring going in, and of course I'm checking. Then the stop solenoid going in and checking again. There is a reason I'm paying so much attention to these parts here, and that's because they control the engine. They control fuel delivery, which controls our revs, it controls shutting down the engine and our maximum kilowatts. It's really important we get this right, and it's better to spend an extra 10 or 20 minutes now making sure it's all in the right place, rather than building it all up and finding out later on we've got a problem. Now we're happy with that, it's time to put the inspection cover back on and then fit the bracket for the throttle cable and the linkage. As we're making up the throttle linkage here, we need to keep in mind there's two cables. One goes into the wheelhouse and one goes onto the deck beside the hauler. We need to make sure that they both work properly and don't interfere with each other. We're all done with the injection pump now, so we're going to move on to fitting the inlet manifold. Again, I totally forgot I was filming this job, so I didn't film it actually going on, but here it is being tightened up. Then we're going to put the fuel lines back onto the pump, and then we're going to hook up the stop solenoid. Now that's all back together and we've checked it again. It's time to fit the injector pipes. You always want to be careful when you're working on a fuel system to make sure you're not letting anything contaminate. So make sure you're not letting debris or flakes of paint or anything get inside. Also, when you're fitting injector pipes, they're always quite fiddly. Don't ever force them because you'll just damage them. Once these injector pipes are on, it's time to move on to bleeding the fuel through. I'm still learning how to film my jobs, so I completely forgot to check the battery and the camera died. But here's a video from my phone of the engine running. Once the engine's running, we go through a whole test procedure, we make sure it goes through the full rev range, it's all balanced, there's no leaks, there's no air getting in anywhere, and the fuel's delivering properly. Then it's a case of tidying up. We grab all our kit together and make sure we leave the boat the way we found it. It was an absolute beauty of a day in Leverburgh, so on the way back I actually remembered that I had a camera strapped to my chest and did my best to catch some of the scenery. Now that we're back on the pontoon, all that's left to do is tie up, make sure we put the outboard back how we found it, grab our kit and head to the van. It's an hour and a half back to the yard, but with weather like this, it's quite a nice drive, so we're just going to enjoy it. If you've enjoyed the video and you'd like to see some more, let us know. We're also open to some criticism and ideas of things we might be able to do in the future. Thank you for watching.